works. All right, gang, this week we're up on our feet. Now, the last little thing I wrote for you guys was about the second season protocol. And that's the process that I use with a lot of my athletes who want to get back into training in some way. And it's built for the body you have now, not the athlete we were 10, 15, 20 years ago. And with that, there's a few things before I can even write anybody a workout program is I got to see how they move. I don't want to just throw random exercises at a body that I've never seen actually take a step or sit or stand. And so what I want to go through today, and this I promise it'll be quick and I won't nerd out too much, but I want to look at 5 different movements that I like to put my new clients through before I even start to write that program for them. Because at the end of the day, if I don't know how you move and your capacity to move, it doesn't really make the program effective, and you're going to feel like it's a cookie cutter program. And so the 5 major movement patterns that I want to have information on are squat, hinge, and lunge, and that's your lower body component, right? Hips, knees, ankles. And for the upper body, it's pushing and pulling and doing that from different angles. And there's a single test that I can actually do that will tell me how well you can get into those different positions, and then how I can insert you into the different exercises so that it makes sense for you and the body that you have right now. Because we're not training for performance anymore. Now we're training for our lives and our bodies that we have right now. There's a different kind of performance that we're chasing, not just being able to jump up and dunk it or take a hit on the football field or anything like that. So the first one that I want to look at is your ability to sit down to a low bench or chair and stand back up without using your hands. And this is going to replicate that squat that I mentioned just a second ago, because a lot of times a squat can be a scary movement. Typically, we relate it directly to a barbell back squat. And yeah, that's what we used when we were an athlete, or even a front squat. And we used that when we were an athlete. But do we necessarily need to use it now? Yes, if you'd like to, I want to be able to get you into that position effectively. But if not, I want to be able to find a variation of this bigger pattern that fits where you are now. And this does that for us. Now, the nice thing about using a bench, and again, you don't need a full garage gym setup like I have. You could do this on a couch or a chair at home. But I encourage you to try this. What I want you to do is find a comfortable position with your feet. I like to go about hip width apart, too wide, and now I start to look like I'm squatting over a hole. But I want to get in a comfortable position, about 6 inches off that bench from my leg. And then from here, hands are going to go right in front of you because I don't want you using your hands to sit down. And I want you to take 5 reps where you sit your butt down to the bench and then come right back up. Now avoid rocking as you get down or even dropping. So if you feel like you're dropping, move your feet out just a little bit more and then you're standing up, okay? So we're going down, unloading, slight lean forward, stand up through those feet. And if you're able to do that pretty well, good. That means that I can at least load you with a goblet squat. So when we grab the dumbbell, hold it here in front of us, now I can get you moving up and down. Maybe we just start with body weight, but eventually we could get you to that loaded variation. Now the thing about sitting to the bench in this way forces us to use our backside a little bit more, which is awesome because if we are basketball players and we know how to use that thing, right? We're boxing people out, bumping people out of the way. With this squat pattern, most of the time when you're squatting just in air, that knee shifts forward. And if you're not used to that knee coming forward in the squat, that might be a little tender. The nice thing about sitting back to the bench is that you're actually sitting back, which loads the hips a little bit more and gives you that nice vertical shin position. So not a lot happening here at the knees, but we're able to load up the biggest muscles of our body. And for many of us who just have poop ankle mobility because of tape, ankle braces, high tops, tape on top of that, whatever else you decided to do to those feet and ankles, this takes that out of the equation as well. So This is our sit to stand. The next one, we're still going to use the bench. You can also use a chair or a couch, but this time I'm going to go on the back side of it so you can see the next movement. Now the next one is going to give me an idea of two things. How much backside flexibility you have, but also how much you're able to keep your trunk locked into a strong position and through what range of motion. So the way that we're going to set this one up is that we want to focus on backside, not knees. I'm going to actually put my shins against the bench. So that's going to block them from going forward, which forces my hips to do what they need to do. So with this, I want to shoot my hips back, let my hands come down my thighs, and the goal at this position is to get my palms flat on the bench. Now, if you can do that, awesome. We can load an RDL. We could also maybe start to load a deadlift. Again, the tool that we choose to load it with will vary based on what you have available to you, but at least I know that you can keep tension through your midsection as your hips go back versus dumping over, looking like a cashew, putting your butt up in the air, right? So this gives me that idea of, okay, now I can load and pick things up, because I'm sure you've picked up a heavy box and the box says lift with your legs, not with your back. Actually, if you can avoid lifting with your back and actually lift with your hips, you're going to be much stronger and able to lift heavier and heavier boxes. Pretty straightforward. And so with my clients, it's a matter of, okay, can they get into this position and get back out smoothly? And you'll notice some folks who are either weaker through the hamstrings or maybe even a little bit tighter, not being able to get down as far. And one of the things that we will work on in the program is being able to get those palms to the bench. So this becomes not only a check in the beginning, but I can also come back and recheck it to see how well you're progressing. All right. So the last one for lower body, and this is one that I like to check just because of what I mentioned earlier with the squat. We have beat the hell out of our feet and ankles. And sometimes that doesn't allow us to do other stuff up the chain of the body, and it impacts that, especially when it comes to squatting, lunging, split squats, RDLs, some of those basic movements. Sometimes even hip thrusts, depending on how we've got it set up. So the thing I like to check is just the ability of one of your knees to move forward and get at least over your big toe. So if I turn this way, you'll be able to see it a little bit better, where I'm trying to drive that knee and getting at least over that big toenail if I can. Now, a lot of us are going to get to here, and that heel is going to pop up, and then the ankle actually doesn't move. So that tells me a lot of what's going on here at the ankle, of being able to get into and out of positions. Again, a lot of us ex-athletes struggle with that. We've been locked in cleats where our feet can't actually splay and move, which locks down the ankle, which can go up the chain to the knee or the hip. For basketball players, we had ankle braces. We had a mandatory ankle brace or tape rule. And because I had some issues with my feet, I went the tape route, and it was like wearing a cast on both ankles before and during every game and practice. So not the most fun thing in the world, but things that I've had to work through as I've gotten older. Okay, so that's for the lower body. If I can see good movement on those three things, I know that we've got a long runway ahead of us. But if I see some deficits here or there, it just tells me that there are a few prior steps that we need to take before we get into anything else. All right, so that's lower body. Let's look at upper body. The one that we're going to look at for upper body is going to be just an overhead reach. Now, the way that I like to set this up, going from the side, ideally, I'm able to get my biceps up by my ears. Not a lot of funky stuff happening through the trunk, right? I'm nice, tall, able to reach to the ceiling and come back down. But if you have trouble, maybe for some of our overhead athletes, of getting one or both arms up overhead, then we need to look a step further. So in the instructions, I would say, all right, you're going to take a lie here on a bench ideally the floor. I'll hop on the bench because it's right here. But you'll have your knees bent, and then those hands are going to do that exact same pattern of going up overhead. And now if I can get here with no issue where my biceps are up by my ears, then I know that I've got some shoulder stability and strength things that I need to work through, instead of, oh, I don't have the mobility. You do have the mobility. We just checked it. You just got into that position when gravity was assisting you. Well, gravity can't assist you up here. You're actually working against it. And so I like to do that just to make sure that when I go to program a chin up or a lat pull down or a high angle cable row, that those shoulders actually have the ability to get into that position. Because if not, and you can't get up here, then a lot of times you're going to be fighting bone on bone. And when people say, oh, my shoulder hurts, a lot of it comes from getting ahead of themselves in the exercise selection. So pretty straightforward on that one. And a lot of times our overhead athletes, think volleyball, baseball, football quarterbacks, anything where that hand has had to come from behind to forward, a lot of times you'll see asymmetries. And there's nothing wrong with an asymmetry. Just keep in mind that we're all a little bit older, and so some of these asymmetries are locked into our bone. It's one of the adaptations that we do. When you put a lot of input into a bone, that bone adapts. Think about your parents or grandparents. They were probably pretty tall. My grandmother was pretty tall for her generation, but by the time she got well into her 80s, she was stuck in this forward flex position. And it's not because she was weaker or anything. It was because her bone had adapted to that posture over time. Right? That's just called Wolff's Law. We adapt, our bones adapt to the stresses put on them. And so whether or not you're able to get an arm all the way up and the other not, at this point, we need to work with our anatomy, not to change our anatomy. Okay, so we're well into our 30s, 40s, possibly even 50s. No need to try to fight it. Let's try to work with what we got. All right, and the last one that we have just tells me how much rotation you can get through your spine, because the spine actually is meant to rotate the farther up the spinal column you go. And so again, the bench coming in handy. Is like, this is the best thing you could buy for your home, if that's what you wanted to do with your spare time and money. But the thing that I want to look at is, one, can we get into a nice tall posture? Hands are going to come across I Dream of Jeannie style. And all I want you to do from this fixed position is rotate and look over your shoulder. Rotate and look over your shoulder. Ideally, this elbow is able to get in line with the hip. I know you can't see it from the angle we're shooting from today, but we want to at least be able to get elbow in line with the hip, if not even a little bit further. And I know for a lot of my folks who have gotten into pickleball or have gotten into golf as their activities of choice, this movement actually is really important for being able to swing the pickleball paddle, but also to be able to swing the golf club, right? And all of that movement comes from our upper back. And so when we're spent time in this bent over posture, it's like, well, shoot, I don't have the ability to rotate as far. So it's one of those things that maybe if you're lacking rotation, we need to start working some of that into your programming as well. All right, so you've got your 5 tests. What I want you to do is go through, do 5 reps on each of these and just see how it feels and where you might be lacking. Shoot me a message if you're short on one and want some help. We'll talk soon.